I can see the look on your face. To me, the look is, I just took a deep breath and finished putting out my epic article about my thoughts on awards. So how do you feel now that you put, quote, pen to paper and it's released to the world?
Yeah, it's a relief to actually get that thing written. It's not a relief to actually read the comments because you guys know how this works. When you make picks, I feel like 99% of America disagrees with every pick. Like they're sniping about how could you put this guy in the 10th slot in your AL MVP, right? So that's kind of the fun of it, the debate, but it's overwhelming how people react to every little pick. But it's why we do this.
We won't react to your 9th and 10th pick. We're going to just react to the standard ones. But as soon as, because it's fresh, when the article came out, did you get any comments that you were like, dang it, how could I have forgotten that point? Even though it may not have swayed why you made the pick, did anybody make any solid points, or was it just like, how on earth could you not put Ellie De La Cruz in here? Love, Scott Braun.
Yeah. All right. Well, if we're just going to talk about who won, I would say nobody has raised anything that I hadn't thought about, because I'll be honest, man, I give this so much thought. I really try to think about everything so I'm ready for that stuff. And I don't even have an actual vote on AL MVP, but it was hard to sleep for a few nights there just thinking it through, because I really wanted to vote for Cal Raleigh. I wanted to pick that guy. I couldn't get there. I thought I would, but when I really looked at it, I couldn't get there. And I feel awful about that part. So that's not a thought process situation. That's just purely my emotions as someone who appreciates something special, something historic, something great, but didn't vote for that guy who did that thing.
Why couldn't you get there? And how close did you get there? Like, what factors made you get that close, but why couldn't you quite get there?
Well, I wasn't a catcher for a living. I'm thinking that's probably one of your criteria. But I actually went into the process thinking, I'm going to pick Cal Raleigh. I'm going to make sure I talk myself into Cal Raleigh. And then I couldn't do it. See, when we talk about history, it's a lot easier to follow history when you're counting home runs. Cal Raleigh has hit 60 home runs. We all know it. It's a special number in the history of the game. It's a special number in our lifetimes. We know what 60 homers means, but there are other ways to make history. And, are we numb to how good at baseball Aaron Judge is? This is a guy with a 210 OPS plus. He is literally twice as good as the average player in his sport. And when I started looking at the gap between Judge and the next best hitter in his league, this was staggering, man. On base, he's 65 points ahead. Slugging, he's almost 90 points ahead. OPS, 177 points ahead of Cal Raleigh. And I went back, and this took a long time. I thought to myself, how often could anybody have done this? Like, who has had this season? So I went back. This is the 95th season of MVP voting. In all that time, Eric, only 2 guys have had that big a margin over the next best player in their league. I'm thinking you've heard of them. Ted Williams is one. Barry Bonds is the other. Now, that's a form of history we don't keep track of, but wow, right?
That is, and that's what we're doing. We're comparing. You're not comparing Aaron Judge to the average player or Cal Raleigh to the average player. You're comparing them to Cal Raleigh to Aaron Judge. But
that's exactly right.
What is your decision? Because in your article you said, I'm not going to make my vote until the season is over. Cal gets to 63. What say you, Mr. Stark?
Look, I had to write this column for today. And right now, this minute, I think I wouldn't change my mind, but stuff can always happen that changes my mind. I'll know it if I see it. I'll know it if I feel it. Right now, I think that I got this right. I can tell you that if Cal Raleigh was in the National League and I was debating Raleigh versus Ohtani or Schwarber or Soto or whoever else you want to put as the main competition, I would have gone Cal Raleigh in the National League, but I don't get to make that choice.
Interesting. I love all your answers. They're so intricate, and you have a smile on your face when you do it. It's just incredible. I kind of wish you can go down the line and ask like other ball players what they thought to kind of not sway you one way or another, but to feel like, this is what these ball players feel like. Now, on contrary, another guy, Christopher Sanchez, he's winning the NL Cy Young. No, what say you there?
I think the answer is no. I picked Paul Skenes, and if you're asking me, is there a case for Christopher Sanchez? There is definitely a case, but what is it? Where would you look at Sanchez versus Skenes and say the answer is Sanchez? Other than what? Baseball Reference wins above replacement, and that is essentially a tie. Last I looked, they were separated by, what was it, 1/10 of a point, 100th of a point? That's a tie. Look at everything else. ERA, strikeouts, strikeout rate, whip. Tell me where Christopher Sanchez would get your vote over Paul Skenes.
Yeah,
No,
no.
nowhere.
I wanted to hear what you had to say to that. That's why I was being funny.
Yeah. I think about this debate if Paul Skenes pitched for a normal team. Say he pitched for a team where he could actually win a game where he gave up more than one run. That did not happen to him this year. What would he have been, like 18-3? We wouldn't even blink twice. But because he's 10-10, he's going to be the first starting pitcher to ever win this award without having a winning record. But how exactly is that his fault?
Felix Hernandez almost did it, but
yeah,
he was kind of in the same situation. American League Cy Young. Is it cut and dry, or should we look a little bit deeper into the other two candidates? I really only think there's one. It's Skubal and Crochet, with Todd's Yankee love to Max Fried in the background.
Yeah, Crochet's amazing. I love watching that guy. I mean, this is the first year where I've ever actually had a chance to talk to him, and I love the way he thinks about not just pitching, but being a number one. That's really important to him. He really accepts that responsibility. But there's something about Tarik Skubal, man, that just separates him from everybody else. And when I watch him, here's that thing. He's that rare guy in our sport who has no fear of the bat. He doesn't fear anyone or anything. And all he does is fill up the strike zone and nobody can hit him. This is the most simple way to explain that. He throws the highest percentage of pitches inside the strike zone of any starting pitcher in the sport. And yet the contact rate against pitches he throws in the strike zone is the lowest of any starting pitcher in the sport. Who does that? I couldn't find anybody. Like, there's some, Randy Johnson had some close calls and Pedro had some close calls, but in the 22 years that Sports Info Solutions has kept this, I couldn't find anyone with that high a percentage of pitches in the zone and that low a contact rate in the zone. He's amazing to me, and it all starts with that.
FT fam, it's still time for you to check out what bathing suit you're wearing and why it's not Fair Harbor. Can we get a little show and tell from Eric Kratz? Nice.
I mean, unfortunately, you can't even see all the little intricacies. We got sharks, we got patterns, we got waves, we got sailboats. Oh, and they feel super buttery on your skin.
Can you show us the liner so people can understand how it's different? Because I've actually been talking it up. I was just on a vacation.
I got the unique liner too. I got the baby blue John. Something about it. I don't know. It pops.
Head to fairharborclothing.com/foul20 and use code FOUL20, FOUL20 for 20% off your order. Once again, that's fair, HARBOR clothing.com/foul20 for 20% off. Make sure you use that promo code FOUL20 so they know FT sent you. Give us something else that you really enjoyed writing about award-wise within the article.
Tell me who the American League Manager of the Year is. I don't have an answer for you on that one. I've changed my mind 7 times this month. What's the right answer?
Guys, what do you think? Todd, Kratz, do you guys have an answer?
I would say I would go with. I'm just drawing a blank here, but I go with the Mariners manager. The way they exceeded.
Dan Wilson, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
And I think John Schneider's a good pick too with the Jays. Kratz, what do you think?
Why is
that's my first ever roommate? You got to go with your first ever roommate. We snored together.
This is why he can never vote on anything because he's biased. He can't be biased.
He was roommates with everyone, Jason.
Well, I actually don't we think the answer is Stephen Vogt if they complete this comeback? And that would mean it would be the first year in the history of Manager of the Year voting that the same 2 guys won 2 years in a row. I mean, I think that's where it would wind up, but it's impossible. This is always impossible. Manager of the Year, never been more impossible than this.
Wow. All right. Well, give it to us. You got 1 vote this year. You're NL MVP.
I've got NL MVP, and you're not going to get me to give this up because I haven't.
He's not allowed.
I'm not allowed.
Can you give us the top what you see as the domineering traits of the guys that are in the top 5 for the NL MVP?
Okay, well, I did write a lot about that Shohei Ohtani guy. Just amazing to me how good he is at so many things before we even get into the pitching part, where he's got a higher strikeout rate than Paul Skenes. Okay. So there's that. But then when you start ticking through the other candidates, Kyle Schwarber, what's the metric that measures Kyle Schwarber? I'm always afraid that my fellow voters are hung up on wins above replacement when they vote, and that's all they look at. And so no DH is ever going to be that guy who blows you away in the wins above replacement column. And yet the value of Kyle Schwarber exceeds his wins above replacement. It exceeds 56 homers. He's the man on that team, one of the best teams in the sport. And we should all keep that in mind. I looked long and hard about Juan Soto because he's having a year between the on base, the power, and all the stolen bases that only Barry Bonds has had. And I don't know exactly where he lands on the ballot, but it's going to be high no matter what happens to the Mets. And then Geraldo Perdomo is a guy, I think it's clear now. We don't talk about him enough. I know that's not true in this show, but if you ask me who's the most underrated player in baseball right now, today as we're talking, I think he's the answer. So I'd probably start with those 4 guys, but it's never easy to vote on these awards.
That's a great call. I agree with you. I think Perdomo's the most underrated player in the sport right now for what he's putting together. I got one more for you on the awards, and we'll finish with the clinching scenarios for you. I love that you do the LVP and the Cy Yuck. I know it's not always easy to put that together, but hey, we're analyzing the league, the good and the bad. I'll mostly leave it for people to actually check out the article, but can you give me one out of the 4 that you picked out?
Yeah. The LVPs were especially hard this year, and I could not settle on an American League least valuable player. I had a few that I did the work on, including reaching out to executives on their team. Of course, they all talked me out of it. And then I made this incredible discovery that the starting center fielder in the All-Star game for the American League, Javi Baez, has been the worst offensive player in the American League since that day. This guy has walked one time since June 24th, guys. One time. He's got a 52-1 strikeout to walk ratio and a weighted runs created plus since the break. Are you ready? Of 32. 32. Mm-hmm. The average player in his league is 3 times better than he's been in the second half. And I didn't want to pick on him, even though I've given him this award before, but when his team is in the midst of this epic collapse, picking Javi Baez kind of makes him the symbol of that collapse. Not to say he's to blame for it, but that's how I got there.
A lot of scenarios going on this weekend here. Which one are you more intrigued on? I mean, the Yankees and the Blue Jays, whoever loses is going to find his way to be the top team in the AL. You got the Tigers, you got the Red Sox. One of those teams could be essentially kicked to the curb if they lose 2 out of 3 and Houston wins. Talk to me about this weekend and what you think, man. This is going to be a fun weekend.
Do you guys root for chaos? I do.
Yeah,
I just want to know.
Yeah, big time.
Right. So I have an article on the Athletic site just posted talking about the potential tiebreaker chaos. And so I did this just because I was confused myself. So I started writing down every possible scenario. And then it came to me. We could have a 4-way tie. There aren't 4 spots left, but the Guardians, the Tigers, the Red Sox, and the Astros could all wind up with the same record. And I thought I knew how everything worked, but I wasn't 100% sure. I had to check with Major League Baseball on that, but think about it. Couldn't you see the Astros sweeping the Angels in Anaheim? I could. Couldn't you see the Tigers and Guardians both winning 2 of 3 this weekend, which would mean the Red Sox would win 1 out of 3? If that happens, they all have the same record. So you want to know how we'd sort it out? I figured it out. First thing we do, we would break the tie in the AL Central. The Guardians hold that tiebreaker, won the season series from the Tigers. And then we've got a 3-way tie with the Red Sox, Tigers, and Astros, but only for 2 spots, the 2 and 3 wildcard spots. The Astros would go home, and that's based on mutual head-to-head records against each other, but I'm going to give you a rule of thumb as we head into this weekend. This is tiebreakers in 15 seconds. In the American League, the Astros lose every possible tiebreaker. In the National League, the Reds win every possible tiebreaker. I have a much longer article that explains every possibility here, but just keep that in your head because that'll help you sort this out.
All right. Quick answer from you on this one. Do you regret writing the article partway through the year about Cal Raleigh and me being parallel players, or has it really come to fruition like you thought it was going to?
I thought at the time it was almost impossible to separate you 2 guys. I'm thinking now he may have done that. Well, how about you? You still think you guys are bonded?
I think we're still together. I think we have a lot in common. We both have big butts.
Yeah, that's a different
noted big-butted power threats.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah, that's a different award category Jayson hasn't gotten to yet, but maybe one day.